All right, back here within the marbles, and now our weekend review from Bahrain. And Preston, I tell you what, I like the outer ring better than I did the inner ring there at Bahrain.
Yeah, hey, if you listen really close, you can hear the winds of change.
Can you?
The most odd podium that you could think of this year, other than back in Italy.
No, man. I mean, I thought it wasn't what I expected after the start of the race, but we'll get more into that. But yeah, it was quite unique there, man. I tell you, it really was. And Bahrain didn't really disappoint me. I really have nothing to say bad about the race. I have some issues to bring up, but it's just nothing, just normal, like what the heck happened here. But you know what impressed me, man? How fast they got around that track.
Yeah, they were running.
Usually you're in a Formula One race and you have a minute 46-second lap. The fastest lap that I saw in qualifying was from Valtteri Bottas, 53.377.
Yeah, they were getting around it.
Holy cow, man. You're booking around that track.
Yeah.
And it was weird seeing him turn right instead of left all the time. Okay, I must admit. I must admit, it was weird. But, man, I tell you, it was a fun race to watch.
I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I give that outer track layout. I honestly would give it a 10 out of 10. I thought it was
it was an outstanding race for you.
Yes, I thought it was one of the best races of the year.
I'll give it a great.
Okay, I can live with that.
And I'll bring it up more so kind of towards the end and talk about it more. But man, it was really cool to watch now. And then we have a debate to talk about here because I don't want to ruin it, but I'm pretty sure you know what it is. But man, how about Sergio Perez?
Yeah, Checo.
Winning his first race in Formula One off of an odd safety car there at the end.
Yeah, it was a little odd. Well, first of all, let's go back to the start. When he was taken out by Charles Leclerc, which...
Was he taken out by Charles Leclerc?
Yes. Charles Leclerc was braking a little too late. And even Max Verstappen had said it. He said he got way down in there, and you could tell. I mean, that was a late braking. Even on the video system on his car, you could see it. I mean, I think he got in there a little late. I mean, Perez was just taking the angle that everybody's supposed to.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it happens, I guess. Leclerc got hit with a grid penalty after that, which, I mean, I don't really know what... They kicked him back like 3 spots, but he was already like almost dead last anyway. So what are you going to do? Kick him back to like 23rd?
Yeah.
Out of a field of 20? You're going to make
him start in the pits.
So, hey, and he was penalized a couple driver points as well. But, all in all, I mean, he damaged, but Perez was lucky that he did not get much more damage than just getting hit on the tire and spun out.
That first lap, I tell you, Russell took off.
He got a great start. And I mean, before the start, you could see all that dust and the sand and everything on the track, and they were talking about that.
And I must say this. We recorded our last week's episode on Monday, so we were thinking Lewis Hamilton was going to... And, of course, this happens all the time here in the Marvels. We record an episode, and then something big like that happens, and the only thing we have is posting it on social media.
Yep.
And... because last week I feel like an idiot now because I said, Lewis Hamilton will win. Total Wolf would say, get in there, Lewis. And you say, I said all this stuff. And I really debated on taking that out. And it's like, no, I'm not going to take that out because I want to keep that in because it might hold true for Abu Dhabi coming up here for the final race in the Formula 1 season.
We're still going to we have to wait and see. That's all that is to it. We're waiting and seeing. If George Russell gets another crack at it, that'd be cool.
Ooh. And we'll get more into that. But, man, yeah, the start of the race was crazy. Verstappen, again, in the victim of unfortunate circumstances, being taken out there on the first lap.
I mean, he saw it coming. That's why he backed out.
Which amazes me. He just went and didn't slow. It didn't seem like he slowed down until he knew he was about to hit the wall.
I think he forgot that the gravel was a lot closer to the edge of the track than he thought. I think he thought he could just go around the outside and be okay. But obviously the cars don't have that much of a turning radius at times, and I mean, he probably saw the gravel, and that was it. It was too late after that. I mean,
he was clearly frustrated, kicking the wall, and I was kind of waiting for him to go up to Leclerc and start pushing Leclerc around.
Right.
You don't really see that in Formula One.
No.
You might see him chirp a little bit at the end of the race during the weigh-ins or whatever, but you never really see it. It's kind of like what happened between Kevin Harvick and Juan Pablo Montoya and Watkins Glen, where they were pushing and shoving, and who's going to win that fight. That would have been cool, but You don't really see that in Formula One, and I don't know why. I really don't. It'd be really cool to see.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where, hey, oh, well, I thought Verstappen clearly upset and at the situation, but that brought out a safety car right away. Again, first lap mayhem on Bahrain.
And after that, it was pretty much a status quo.
It was pretty much status quo. I mean, Russell did a great job in that car, in Lewis Hamilton's car, dominating the race. Yeah, great pit stops. Bottas couldn't catch him. You know, we thought he was having some power issues there, but I think it was just learning the car.
Yeah, well, it was that. I think he was asking a couple buttons were, I guess, for DRS and things like that, or the overtake button as well. He's like, I don't know where the overtake button is on this wheel, so a little bit different setup probably.
Yeah, I mean, he was just kind of thrusting into there after Lewis Hamilton tested positive for COVID.
Yeah,
but that's one of those things where, okay, you're going to have that from time to time, especially with a new driver and a new vehicle this very late into the season. I mean, one more race to go coming up here in Abu Dhabi. But he did a great job, man. You can't take it away from George Russell being thrusted into that position, given that opportunity for one.
Yeah, he led 59 laps out of those 87.
Which is a lot. But then here's the problem here. And I'm going to have to find the name of the driver, the Williams driver who hit the wall. Was it?
Jack Aiken.
Jack Aiken, who spun there, coming off of the last turn and hitting the wall, which damaged his front wing to the point where the wing came off and was in the track. Now, this is what's different between Formula One and NASCAR. Now, on road courses, you can have what's called local cautions,
yes,
which means that particular section of the track you can't overtake if a caution's out in that. And for this case, it was Section 3.
Yeah, Sector 3.
Sector 3 of the Bahrainian circuit was under a caution.
It was right there off the final turn.
I mean, coming into the pits, an awkward spot.
Yes.
Aiken went into the pits and got his fresh tires and did everything else. However, the wing was there on the track, and the marshals couldn't go out there safely to get it.
Yeah, they were under a virtual safety car for a few minutes, and they were talking about it. And, I mean, I was talking to Maples, and I was like, man, how interesting would this be if we got a safety car before Aiken even spun out? I said, how crazy would that be? Because Perez was closing the gap back again.
Yeah, he was.
And so then Aiken spun out, and then, I mean, he got really lucky that he didn't actually crash right into that wall. I mean, he got way out there. But, yeah, so the virtual safety car came out, and you could hear the commentators, they were talking about it. They said, I don't think there's a gap for anybody to get out there onto the track for it. So we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally, I guess the FIA said, you know, we're just going to have to put a full-on safety car out there so somebody can get out there. Because there was no gap in between any of the cars. Under a virtual safety car, you just, I can't remember, they broke it down on the, during the race broadcast, but it's you slow down to a certain amount and you can't go over a certain speed or a certain lap time or whatever. But there was just, I guess everybody was just so fanned out that there was no gaps for anybody to get out there, even though it was right there at that where the marshals were. So
that on top of that, it was in that section of the track too where it is the racing line.
Yes.
And if they missed anything, you got a puncture situation, and that could cause a bigger problem. That could cause another incident to happen. And speaking of incident, I am shocked after last week in Grosjean's near miss that I still saw guardrails around that track.
The whole track is like that.
And again, Formula One and the FIA, you dodged a bullet, but you might not get a second chance at that because you saw the Grosjean interview.
Yes.
And he said he was stuck.
He was stuck.
He hit his head on the guardrail. Mm-hmm. And that right there should tell the FIA, we need to change this. We said this last week, and I hate to beat the dead horse because we're moved on from this. But how do you not learn from that mistake? We'll get more into that later. We'll probably talk about that on another episode when all the racing's over and we're just filling time.
It could be something that they may look into in the offseason.
They need to look into it now because that's ridiculous. Because once Raikkonen spun out again, Raikkonen had a horrible weekend.
Yeah.
Once he spun out there in turn 3, it's like, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily for everybody else, he did a nice little 360 and then
kept on going.
Oh, and then Leclerc, Verstappen, and Perez got into it and caused a, well, bummer for Verstappen and Leclerc. Let's just say that. But man, yeah. So the safety car comes out with a handful of laps to go.
Yeah.
And you got to answer me this one as the Formula One guy. Why, given the fact that Mercedes was out front, they had the cars to beat on old tires or new tires, whatever. And it's evident, especially in this race, and we've said it in the past, if you're out front in a Formula One race, you're golden. You're great.
Yeah.
You got all the aerodynamic advantages working to your advantage for that car to do what it needs to do. Why would Mercedes pit?
Well, there could be a couple of factors that go into that. I mean, with the virtual safety car out, they knew that they didn't need to pit because they were going to keep that gap. But then once the safety car came out and they were right there, I think someone made the decision that we need to pit because when a safety car comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be looking to pit anyways because that usually bunches the field back up. And I think they might have been thinking maybe the Racing Point of Sergio Perez could possibly have good enough speed to break up a podium for Mercedes because Bottas was not the fastest out there. He was definitely not.
No, but Russell was.
Russell
had the fastest lap at a 55.404. What lap that came on, I don't know, but he was awarded the DHL fastest lap of the race.
I think maybe they were thinking that with the safety car and with it bunching people up, they still needed to put fresher tires on just in case, even though they probably would think that, oh, nobody's going to catch us. We probably should do it just in case.
But you went from front of the field, which is where you want to be, fresh tires or new tires. Track position is everything in racing, whether it's Formula One, Indy, NASCAR, you name it. I would much rather be out front, being able to time the restart and go, have my teammate behind me, in this case, Valtteri Bottas, holding up Perez, holding up Ocon, holding up Stroll, holding up Carlos Sainz, and holding up Daniel Ricciardo, which that top five is just all types of crazy. I've never seen. It's been a while since I've seen no Mercedes, no Ferrari, no Red Bull in the top five.
I think it comes down. I mean, they were coming when the safety car was put out there. They were coming to that final turn, and if they would have stayed out, everybody else would have had a chance behind to pit.
So,
and that would have put them behind the ball because they were already getting on tires that would have been used for quite some time. And I mean, even if Mercedes could be fast, Racing Point comes in there and throws a good set of mediums on. They got better grip. Who knows what happens after that?
I think I'd much rather have dealt with the track position and dealt with that as it came, because that totally lost them the race. George Russell, as crazy as it sounds, and as much as I'm not, because if Lewis Hamilton was in that seat, I would have said, yeah, whatever, I don't care. But George Russell was in that seat. It was fun to watch. Finally, a guy comes in and shows, for me, and we'll get into the debate later, that anybody can win in that car, I feel.
Yeah.
But why Mercedes did that, I'll never know. It kind of blows me away that I don't know if they say they thought, hey, we already won this Constructors' Championship and we already have the Drivers' Championship locked out. Let's try this. I don't see... That doesn't seem like a Mercedes thing to do. No, it doesn't.
But I think the call for the pit stops was very, very, very on the fly and late. I mean, they were stacking them, and they were literally right behind each other.
And you could tell it was just a cluster. And Total Wolf even said it was a cluster.
Yeah, he said it right on the interview after the race. It was a cluster F.
Yeah, we're not gonna replay that, obviously.
No,
but Mercedes being as prestigious as they are, and being as on the ball with everything in Formula One as they are, the fact that Mercedes botched that.
Yep. They even said it on the broadcast.
That was worse than Sabu going to the top rope and doing something crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, who's that guy?
Sabu?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jumping off the top rope onto somebody on a metal barricade.
If you want to listen to good wrestling podcasts, Chokeslam Report is way better on the Unhinged Sports Network. They know a bit more than me, but I don't know how someone messes that up. First of all, if you're going to stack cars, you would think you'd have that planned out and you have that practice. Well, now you don't see a lot of stacked pit stops in Formula One, but at the same time, they've trained on that. I'm pretty sure.
Well, like I said, I can break it down to it, and as to why, it's because they just weren't ready. The call was made way too late, and the crew wasn't even ready. By the time they made the call, George Russell was already entering pit lane. I mean, those guys were still getting out there as he was coming into the pit stall.
That is inexcusable.
Yeah, whoever made the call...
Who made the call? Was it Total Wolf? It wasn't Total Wolf.
I have no idea who made the call. I never found out, but whoever made the call, and the commentators even said it, it's very un-Mercedes-like the way that whole thing went down.
It was very because I'm watching that, and
it's
especially with Valtteri's pit stop being long, they took the tires off, and you're going to have to explain this one to me because I might have missed something. They took the tires off. Somebody was given the chop motion, like, nope, this isn't right. It looked like they put the old tires back on.
Okay, so what had happened was when Russell had come in, they were still pulling the mediums out for Russell. They pulled Bottas's mediums out instead. And you can see it as Russell's pulling into his pit stop. They're still getting out there. So they put tires on, and they sent him on his way. Bottas comes in, they take tires off, put mediums on. I think they took some of the older mediums that were on Russell's car and put them on. And then they said, oh, wait a minute, that's not right.
Take a second.
We haven't even gotten Bottas's tires out. It's because they brought Bottas's tires out first, put them on Russell's car by accident, sent him on his way.
I must have missed that.
When the front left, you could tell, I mean, we all thought that the front left was just messed up, but the guy noticed it. He said, wait a minute, this isn't right. And everyone was just like, what are you talking? We don't know what's going on. I think I went back and looked at it. They never brought another set of tires out. They brought a set of tires out for Russell.
So
those were Bottas's.
They gave Russell Bottas's tires, and they took Russell's tires off and threw those on Bottas's car. Tires.
I think it was the front, the mediums that they put on Russell's. I think the fronts were Bottas's. I think everybody got everything messed up because, like I said, when Russell was coming in, they were still getting out
excuse.
there. It was only just 4 tires that they brought out there when Russell came in. So it was Bottas's right behind him, and they sent him on his way. He comes in, they change the tires, and then that front left tire changer says, wait a minute, this isn't right. And then they put the tires back on Bottas's car, and then they have to sit, and like you can see the brakes are on fire and everything, and the commentators just like, they need to get him out there.
Yeah.
Because it was just a mess. And of course, Russell had to come back in. They had to take tires off, and he didn't get a penalty for it because they did it within 3 laps. They did it on the next lap because it was still safety car. So
it was ridiculous what I just witnessed. What I witnessed on Sunday, it was just...
Listen, when that happened and I saw them messing up Bottas, I was like, oh my God, we're not going to see both Mercedes on a podium. And then they said, hey, Russell, we got to bring you back in. We got a little bit of a mixed setup going on. And I was like, oh, now it's really getting good. Man. The drama. So Mercedes was fined £20,000, or if it comes out in the U.S. dollars, just roughly under $27,000 for that whole tire debacle. So,
and we in NASCAR think it's a big deal when a lug nut's missing. Holy cow! You mix up tires in Formula One, that's going to cost you twice as much.
There was a lot going on. Russell was not penalized for any of it because I think what had happened also was...
Yeah, it was the team's fault.
When they were calling them in, Russell was over the radio at the same time. So there was a little bit of radio miscommunication too. So I don't think the pit crew exactly heard everything that was going on. And that's why they were a little late getting out there too.
Answer me this. In Formula One, why isn't there a guy... and forgive me for my ignorance here, because in NASCAR, there's rarely... But in Formula One, you have the engineer set up there on the pit wall.
Right.
You have the pit crew in the garage. One pit crew for both cars. So whoever the pit crew is for Mercedes, they pit both Hamilton and Bottas. You would think, hey, we're bringing someone in, and there'd be some guy going, like, waving his arms, just get ready, you know, or signal, or maybe a button they push. They got the technology where they go pit, and then a little green light, a yellow light comes on over the TV and goes, oh, hey, the yellow light's on. We need to go pit. Hey, but no, they reduced to radio communication, and then they're getting out struggling. I mean, it's a big orchestrated pit stop.
Yeah,
that formula. It isn't just 6 guys over the wall. It's
usually on a pit number. Usually on a F1 pit stop, you already have your crew sitting out there waiting for you.
Yeah.
To show up. And I think, like I said,
hence the sub 2-second pit stops.
Yeah, it came down to, I think it came down to a late call, and they said something about radio communications. There was a lot of chatter at the same time, so maybe not everybody got the message that what was happening, but still, it's a late call, and you're trying to stack And you obviously can tell that they did not get both sets of tires of both cars out there
I think that's
fast enough.
That's ridiculous on Mercedes' part.
When it comes down to an F1 pit stop, the tires that are going to go on the car are already in what they call blankets.
Yep.
And you have to get those blankets off before you get the tires out there.
Yep.
And I think when they said, hey, we're coming, they're all trying to figure out who's coming first anyways. We don't know.
Didn't it kind of remind you of Ricciardo's pit stop in Monaco where he was sitting there for like
and
15 seconds with no tires out there?
They didn't have the tires out there,
and it lost him a race. And we talked about this, I think it was 2 weeks ago when we had a Heyman, or it was last week. I think it was last week. Talking about the Gen 7 car and the single lug nut. Folks, you can mess it up.
You can mess it up.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Racers are won and lost in the pits.
Yep.
And I'll always be a big proponent of that because that's very true. But
so
going into it, the results. Racing Point, awesome job finishing first and third. Lance Stroll or Sergio Perez getting his first victory in Formula One. Very awesome, and congratulations to him on that.
190 starts, by the way.
But he did it.
But he finally did it.
He finally did it. And he's in Racing Point, I tell you, has come a long way since last year. They have
they have
programming at 180, and they're going in the right direction. Third in the Constructors' Championships right now. But here's my driver of the day for that race, Ocon.
Yeah, great drive
finishing
on him.
second. Renault, fifth in the Constructors' Championships. Ricciardo and Ocon in the top 5 in that race. Overall, it was a great race for me because, at first, like you said, it was status quo. But once that safety car came out, like a late race caution in NASCAR, everything changes. Mercedes shot themselves in the foot, and you could tell the disappointment in Russell's face when he was going to the pits and stuff. He was just...
And Russell would have caught Perez after that restart. I mean, he restarted 5th. He would have caught him. He got held up by Bottas for a lap. But even when he got by him, he would have caught him within those last 10 laps. But then he got that puncture and that left rear, and that really killed everything after that.
That hurt him too.
But I knew he was coming. Russell was fast, which we'll get into that debate later on.
We will. In fact, we will get into that debate right now because I think it's a good time for it while we're on the weekend review.
Well, actually, let me ask you a question first.
Okay.
Let's go back here for a second. So Sergio Perez, man of the weekend, getting the win. With no ride secured for next year, does this help?
Yes.
Maybe, possibly, because as far as I know, Alex Albon with Red Bull is not completely locked up yet. He has no contract, and neither does Danny Kvyat with AlphaTauri, which has me thinking with Lawrence Stroll in the interview after the race when they asked him, and he said, I wish that Red Bull would sign Perez for next year because I think they know that they made a mistake by getting Perez to just see you later, man, because that they've kind of forced him out of there.
If I was Perez, I'd want to stick with something that I've grown with and that I've seen take a 180. If I was Perez, I'd stick right there with Racing Point as long as I can.
But the thing is, I think they talked him out of leaving. I think they were trying to pay him to leave early. That's why.
No.
They were trying to get Vettel.
The heck with Vettel.
So
Sergio Perez is the next big thing coming up here in Formula One, and if Racing Point gets rid of them and trades out Albon for them,
I think
Red Bull is second in the Constructors' Championship, but only barely.
I think in the ideal situation, Red Bull signs Perez and they kick Albon to AlphaTauri because there's talks of Danny Kvyat being kicked out anyways of AlphaTauri right now because he's not performing as well. I think that would be the ideal situation. Sergio Perez is a great driver. Put him in a Red Bull car, and it'll be very interesting next year.
I think. Tell you what, we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. I think it helps. Because
I think that's going to be an interesting, silly season for the offseason coming up here in a week for Formula One. But speaking of that, before we get into our debate here, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final race in the Formula One season, going on December 13th at 8:10 a.m. on ESPN. That's only in 3 days from the date of this recording, at least the practice is in 3 days.
Yeah.
It's not the race. The race is on Sunday. But 3 days, December 13th at 8:10 a.m. on ESPN. And now, Preston, the debate I've always wanted, I've always said, I've always hinted at here at In the Marbles. Is it car or is it driver in Formula One?
Hey, race fans. I'm Preston from In the Marbles. Like what you just watched, be sure to hit the subscribe button below. And if you're looking for more content, you can find some videos right here to the left of me.